like to ask a little bit about, obviously Paul Cook was an incredible manager for Sligo. He left at the end of the 2011 season. Baraclough came in then and you won the league. Just talk a wee bit about Paul Cook in terms of how good a manager he was, and then the impact. What did Baraclough bring, to the party when he came in then after Cook left?
Yeah, obviously when Cookie came in, for me personally, and I think the club in general, he just gave everyone a lift. I was kind of used to, up until that stage, I was kind of used to managers, really kind of saying, well, look, do this, do that. Where he kind of came in and he really put the arm around your shoulder and just filled you with confidence. Everything, he did was, to give you confidence. He had a great knack of knowing which lads needed a rocket and which lads needed the arm around the shoulder,
Yeah.
He knew anyone, Gavin Pearsey, always knew that Pearsey needed a rocket, that he could give Pearsey a rocket and Pearsey it'd react in a positive way, He used to always say to Pearsey, hey, you empty head, just head it, you, will you? That's what he used to say to him, And Pearsey would be, fuck off you, will you? Fuck off you, So they had a great, they had a love-hate relationship, but Cookie, you always knew that if he went through him at half-time, Pearsey would come on the second half and he'd be steam coming out his ears, ready to run through a brick wall. Whereas he knew then me, on the other hand, maybe an arm around the shoulder and say, well done, Raf, absolutely fantastic. We need a little bit more from you, whatever. And that sent me on my way for the second half. He had a great knack about him in terms of he knew what every player needed, in that regard. But he really built you up. You went onto the pitch thinking you were Cristiano Ronaldo, because I now know this, that he'd have his arm around me and he'd be saying, hey lad, I'm building my team around you, lad, you're my best player. But I know he was saying that to the 16 other lads as well, beside me. That kind of way. But he really made you can feel like that. Yeah. It was probably the first time in my career when I actually felt I was good enough to be playing at that level. I had my doubts, but he really kind of instilled that then into me, that gave me the confidence to say, I'm good enough to be here. I'm good enough to be on the pitch with your key fatties and, your own Harrys and your players like that. That was the first time when I kind of realised, Jesus, I'm actually good enough to be here,
So how much of that man management do you think had a direct impact on your performance, maybe going to another level?
I think it was a great thing, because he knew everything, right? He knew when we needed to train. He knew if lads looked, if the session on a Friday, and we were playing on Saturday, if the session looked a little bit leggy in the first 20 minutes, he'd cut it after 30 minutes, 40 minutes. He'd say, right, that's us. I don't like, the energy. Lads look tired, lads, I want you fresh. He was so, hellbound on being fresh for game day. That was his thing, If he thought that there was lacking energy in the session, he'd say, right, he'd put it down to tiredness. It was never down to, okay, lads are sacking it off, which was never the case anyways. Lads always wanted to train well and do well. But he always, he was really keen on that freshness. But he always, he knew the lads, if they needed a day off, there was never any, if I said, right, I need Monday off or I need Thursday off, there was never, no, I need you in, I need you train. You go do what you have to do. And you're there, well, I need it off. You don't have to explain to me, he'd say. You don't have to tell me what you're doing. Just take it off. If you need it off, I don't care. He used to always say, I don't care once you're right for a Friday or a Saturday.
And then did you feel then sort of, in return that there, the gaffer sound here, he's giving me a day off. I'm going to be at the races Saturday, 100%.
Absolutely. 100%, because he made you feel like, he made you feel like not just like he's your manager. He made you feel like he was your mate, you know. And if you had anything or there was anything that you needed, you know, you could go to him and he'd look after you. Like Bocco with the fine, he knew by going to Paul, and Paul it was Paul and whoever that sorted it, you know. But he got it sorted, you know, and that's why lads ran through brick walls for him, you know. That's why lads went, you know, and went that extra yard for him, because you knew that he had your back, and you knew that he was going to that he did something for you, that you were going to, you know, in return, you were going to give him 110%.
Well, under Cook, you have won back-to-back FA Cups. You have finished second in the league. So to the naked eye, to me, it looked like a natural, you know, sort of progression that you were going to win the title, which is probably unfair. But that's what people would think, that if Paul Cook stayed, you know, he would have won the league anyway. But is that, you know, that probably is unfair. Did Baraclough come in there? He probably didn't have to change much, did he? Or did he? Like, what sort of impact did he have to take you to the next level? Because, you know, not as a criticism to Paul Cook, but you didn't win the league, and then he came in and you did. So was he bringing something completely different to the party, maybe even in terms of man management and stuff?
Like, the other thing with Barra, you know, like Barra came in, you know, didn't change a whole lot, which was probably the right thing to do, you know. He didn't, you know, saying, right, this is how we're going to do this, or this is how we're going to do that. He made minimal changes, you know, was you know, knew that he had a decent squad there. Obviously, he wanted to bring in one or two of his own lads, and he did, and did well for us as well. But he you know, his sessions were top class. Was probably the first manager I came across that really went into the in-depth kind of analysis of the opposition. So, you know, you'd be going onto the pitch, you know, on a Friday or a Saturday, and you knew that the player you were coming up against, you'd know he was right-footed, left-footed, liked to cut inside, liked to fake a shot up the line and come inside, or, you know, this is the kind of detail, kind of stuff that he had, you know, prepared for you, you know, going into a match. So you were really prepared. He also had a plan, you know, a game plan to execute also as well. But not, you know, there was always that little bit of freedom as well that he liked to give, especially the front three. He always kind of gave them a little bit of freedom, where the midfield three and the back four were a bit more rigid.
And so did that make you a sort of better unit then? That I know you talked about Cookie earlier and the fact that he gave you a lot of freedom, and you say Baraclough gave you the front three a bit of freedom, but were you a little bit more tighter at the back? So maybe you were seeing out games where maybe previous seasons you might have dropped points. Was it a little bit more conservative, and that was maybe the difference in taking that jump from second to first?
I think it had a lot. Yeah, definitely had a lot to do with it. You know, obviously the game plan. You know, there was times where the game plan didn't go according to plan. You know, and I'll reference back to the first two games of the season where I think we won one in the last minute. I think Shelburne, Big J McGuinness got a winner in Shelburne. I think the last kick of the game. The following week we're playing against UCD at home, and 1-1. 94th minute, Big Jason McGuinness pops up again to get the winner, you know. So we had a little bit of you know, where set pieces as well worked, you know, for us. The little bit of work on the set pieces and little bits like that probably give us that little bit extra, you know, to get us across the line.
Both those managers have sort of went on to have, you know, great success. You know, Cookie as well over with.
He's at Burnley, isn't he? Well, not Burnley. He's at
Wigan.
Cookie was at Wigan, and obviously last season, I think, or the season before that, you know, he finished up, and look, they've had two of them. Like, I still think that Cookie will either do Championship, he'll have another Championship club, possibly even manage in the Premier League. Personally, I think, because there's not many players that I've come across that have played for him that have anything bad to say. You know, most of them will always say to you that they've played their best football under him. You know, And Barra, you know, very, very similar. There's no one I've heard that had a bad word to say playing under him. You know, he was an absolute gentleman. You know, one of the nicest men. The one thing about Cookie was sound and you know, really top man and really good to me. But he had that streak. He had that nasty streak. You know, if he needed to move you on and get rid of you and if he could bring someone in better, he'd do it. You know.
Was there any examples of that, Raf, when you were there? Is there anybody that was moved on as a group of players you thought, shit, we need him, but Cookie's thought, no, for the benefit of the group, I think he needs to go?
And he actually loved you know Earl of Davern, you know Davo.
Yeah.
I played with him before when he was at Institute.
Yeah, absolute top man, absolute gentleman. Him and Cookie like that, like loved each other. But Cookie had anyways obviously had something in the pipeline. Connor Powell had become available. And we didn't really have anyone, you know, other kind of proper left back bar Dav. You know, we had one or two that could play there or slot in there. And
he was a Bosley as well, wasn't he, Raf?
Yeah. It was a Bose, yeah. So Powley anyways became available. And we never knew now this. We didn't know anything about it or anything like that. But Davo was suspended anyways in July. Got suspended, I think, second week in July. And Cookie anyways brought him into the office, you know, says, look, lad, you're suspended for the next game. I think it was a European game he was missing or something like that you're missing the next game. You know, why don't you take the missus to Lanzarote, he says, for the week. So, you know, this is how, you know, Cookie was like, you know, you're suspended, you did well for me.
Yeah.
Why don't you take the missus to Lanzarote? And Dan was like, oh yeah, Jesus, I'd love that. Are you sure? Yeah, lads, no problem. Take the missus to Lanzarote.
Stay there.
And Davos, anyways, in Lanzarote. Davos there 2 days in Lanzarote or Tenerife, wherever it was. Next thing, the club announces Connor Powell is signed. All you see is my phone is going daft, saying, "Hey, text. What's the story? What's the story, Powley? Connor Powell coming in? Huh? I never knew that. This is from Davo, who's in Lanzarote, looking for the quickest flight to come back, saying, what's going on here?" Cookie loved Dav, right? It wasn't a case that he wanted to get rid of Dav.
Yeah.
It was more of a case he wanted to bring in someone that will challenge him and you know, be a bit more competition in that regard. But
hopefully get the right reaction from that then.
He had to send Dav to Lanzarote before he bring him in. You know what I mean? He couldn't bring him in and tell him. He says, take your missus to Lanzarote. I was left back coming in and I don't want you here. You know what I mean?
Was there a bit of controversy around that time with Heary coming in, or was it just he was brought in maybe to do a good job and it didn't really work out? What was happening at that time? Like
we were on kind of like the golden era. So the golden era was so much, as they would say, kind of coming to a close and coming to an end. So it's hard for any manager that kind of comes in after a period that we'd had a 4-year period where we'd won a trophy every single season, if not 2 trophies some seasons. So it was going to always be hard for the next manager that come in. There was always going to be that expectation, you know, to try and achieve something or win something, or, you know. And it just didn't transpire, you know, for Owen. You know, I played with Owen at Bowes and was there with Owen, you know, and it just didn't, for whatever reason, whether it was the group had, you know, he had a couple of key players. Now, we had lost a couple of key players from the previous season and the season before that. And, you know, there was still a kind of a group of us there, myself, Pearsy, Keano, Gary Rogers had actually left at that stage. So there was only, you know, a few of us kind of left from the golden era as such.
A massive job for Heary to come in and take, at the time, you know, relatively inexperienced manager, I suppose, to come into a club that has been so successful over the past few years, and then, you know, I think, is there a bit of added pressure as well coming from, probably being such a high-profile player in the League of Ireland over the years and coming in and trying to take on that mantle? The spotlight's definitely on you a lot more.
Yeah, like he was the most successful player, like to grace the league. Obviously, before any of the Dundalk era where you have a couple of lads who won. You have Sean Gannon, who has won as many leagues as him now nearly, and stuff like that. But there was always that, okay, he's won everything as a player. Mm-hmm. Let's see, maybe people probably put a bit more of a spotlight on him. Was he going to be as successful as a manager, Yeah. And that probably followed him a little bit, from his playing career, because he actually did quite well at Bohs. He did really well, Bohs were, I think, around a mid-table team at that stage, or flirting with mid-table, but he did a great job anyways there. And that's why, obviously Sligo said, this is an up-and-coming manager, and we need to get him here. And he had a great kind of thing with the younger players as well, but look, football's a funny old game. We all know that, and how quickly it can bloody change. And unfortunately for him and us as a group, not just him, us as a group.
Yeah. It's interesting to say that about Heary as well, and sort of Cowan referenced the fact that he had such a great career. I'd say probably Peter Hutton maybe suffered the same a little bit when he went in at us at Harps and then Derry City, where he had this incredible career that preceded him. And I think people just automatically thought he's going to be a great manager. So there is that added pressure that maybe people don't see. But how early on under Heary at Sligo did you think this isn't happening? Like, I mean, was he? You played with him when he was a player at Bohs. Were you a little bit closer to him than other players in the dressing room because you had that relationship, or what sort of relationship did you have with him when he was there?
I had a good relationship with him, because obviously I played with him at Bohs and actually sat beside him in the dressing room at Bohs. So when he came in, he made myself and someone else captain, and he just he would have pulled me aside and said, you're experienced, one of the more experienced players, get the group together, so and so forth, but it was I don't know, it's hard to kind of put it down to what it was actually, why we didn't achieve what we achieved, what we should have achieved, because we had a relatively great squad, on paper, even, you had Keith Ward that came in, you had Stephen Folin, you had Stephen Beattie, these are lads that went on to win, lots of stuff, in the league as players. So look, like you said, whether it was us as a group just didn't gel, or whether it was maybe the inexperience as a manager to gel us together as a group, whatever it was, I really don't know personally what it was. All I know personally for me is that I didn't feel, it was the only season in my career that I probably felt I didn't contribute as much as I could as a player.
How did that affect your relationship with Pearsy? The captains have been taken from him and essentially given to you.
It didn't really. It did a little bit in terms, look, we were mates and we still are mates, and we think, but you can get a little bit of stuff, fired your way, schneid comments that there mightn't be anything in it, but then there could be a little bit, also in it. And like I said, those were maybe the little tiny little kind of things that might have just kind of nipped, really kind of did it, and we probably didn't gel as much as a group as we should have, and look, like I said,
that's football.
Yeah, and yourself, if you're all pulling in different directions, look, it's a recipe for disaster. So you got to be all pulling the same way, and if you're all pulling the same way, you're on to a winner. And that year probably, there was just maybe too many chefs, in the kitchen, as they'd say.
And just quickly, Raf, as well, we've talked about this in the podcast before, me and Kyle, with players like Barry Malloy and stuff, who's hometown Derry player. You know, it's great when it's going well, but normally when things start going bad, it's usually the local players who sort of get it, you know, directly, as opposed to maybe lads that are from different parts of the country. You know, as great a career you had at Sligo, you've obviously had difficult times as well. Was there ever a period where you were on the receiving end of flack from Sligo fans and maybe some of the other local lads, your Conor O'Grady's and Rossies and that? Like, would you lads have been in the firing line, so to speak, at different stages?
To be fair, me personally, I've been lucky because I never, you know.
You're Italian.
Well, no, I've been lucky because the Sligo fans, you know, I get nothing but admiration for me. I was lucky
what
because.
What you come to me for? I know you were from here.
Why you try to mess with me? Don't do that, you know. But
it's O'Grady. It's O'Grady's club. It's not mine.
Just to God, but I've been lucky in that regard, and the local lads here, you know, we were kind of never on the receiving end of any stuff like that, you know. I think I used to know that if I left everything on the pitch, you know, and I give everything for the jersey, I think you'll always get that appreciation. And it's not like just from Sligo fans. I think that's from any fan base throughout the league. If you leave everything on the pitch, you know, there's a 50-50 challenge and you're not pulling out of it, and there's headers to be won and you're winning headers, and you show that you actually care, you know, about losing. I don't think you'll ever hear a fan say a bad word about you, you know. But, you know, there has been lads that have, you know, come in for criticism, you know, whether it's here in Sligo or whether it's at Harps or wherever it may be, you know, where they probably it just hasn't worked out for them, you know, that move or the expectation that was set at the beginning of the season, they haven't reached that level, you know.
I want to ask him about Mickey Adams. Surely Mickey Adams coming in, right, ex-Premier League manager. You're thinking, what kind of fucking circus is this now? Talk us through that period when he was there.
He was actually quite good when he came in, Mickey, you know. For me, he was very good because he was another man that kind of knew, and look, he's managed at the fucking top of the Prem, you know what I mean? He just had an approach. Again, if you needed a day off, whether it was for personal reasons or for whatever, bang, no problem, go do that, whatever. But I will say the hardest training session, now I know now why he done it as a player, as an older pro now, I know. One of his first training sessions he came in was the hardest session I've ever done in my entire life. And all it was just a test. All just a test to say, are they mentally, you know, are they mentally, you know, prepared to get out of the trouble we're in, you know? Are they going to give up if things get tough? Are they going to give up, you know? And to be fair, everyone in the session, you know, it probably brought us actually quite together because everyone was helping each other that day.
Yeah,
quite well, you know. Everyone was like, you know, there was one or two lads, you know, oh, this is Jesus, we can't do 3 more, we can't do 6 more, you know, this is a joke, you know. But you're there, one of the lads and 1 or 2 of the other lads are grabbing them all together and say, look, come on, just put it in. I'm telling you, you got to put it in. I'm telling you, we're being tested. You got to put it in. You can't give up. And now I know it was a test, but by God, one of the hardest sessions I've ever done. Oh my God, I still remember it to this day. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
He made us do 10 or so. Main pitch we're on. You had 1 minute to go the whole way around the main pitch. So 1 minute to go. So you were running at, I'd say, 80%.
Yeah.
With 10 times. If someone wasn't in the minute, an extra lap was added on. Yeah. So
horrible running.
Did 10 of them. After the 10, we thought, lovely. Fuck me, everyone has done it, you know.
Yeah.
I think we had 1 or 2 where they were borderline just missing it, but he let it because he was happy with it. We thought we were finished. Next thing you know, 30 seconds. So 6 half laps. So we have to do 6 ones in 30 seconds, halfway around.
Horrible stuff.
Right. Sound. Everyone's high-fiving after the 6. Right. 3 more full laps. Anyone isn't in the 1 minute, we're adding a minute on. I will never forget it as long as I live.
That sounds horrible.
Honest to God, it was phenomenal. But again, all it was is he was testing our mental strength as players. Are these players up to it, mentally?
Yeah.
Are they mentally, strong enough to put up with everything?
Just shows you too, like Mickey Adams, Premier League manager, and he just comes in old school running, just run the balls off you.
Who was his number 2, Raf?
But that's what most, like, everyone would have probably said we weren't fit enough at that, at that present time. And the first thing a manager is going to come in, we're going to get fitter, we're going to get stronger, we're going to get sharper. So it's natural. You know when a new manager is going to come in, you're going to run a bit more because you're not fit enough. That's the way it is.
So Rafael Cretaro, we've gone through great career. We've talked about the leagues and the cup success. With that, there you've been involved in a lot of great wrestlers, played with a lot of quality players, internationals for that matter as well. Take us through your best team that you've played for. So your 1 to 11 that you've played for. Where you go?
1 to 11 I played. In goals, I'd have Gary Rogers.
Gary Rogers, right?
Goalkeeper. Phenomenal. And look, in terms of longevity, a bit like myself, even though Gary's a bit older than me, only recently retired, had a fantastic career.
Goalkeepers don't really count, though. You can't really count, goalkeepers as players, for longevity.
They don't do any running.
I tell you what, he was one of the fittest men I was ever. In terms of goalkeeper, he was definitely the fittest goalkeeper I was ever with. He was ahead of me in the running, and I'm shit at running anyways. But
at that time, Raf, at that time, just sorry to interrupt you there. At Sligo that time, was it Brendan Clark, Rogers, and Brushy? That the 3 keepers?
Could have been, yeah. I don't know. Brushy might have left, and Clarkey came in.
Right.
And then, or no, Brushy was there with Clarkey. Sorry, Brushy was there with Clarkey.
Right.
And then Clarkey left in 2000, and after the 2011 Cup final.
Yeah.
And Gary Rogers then came in, and it was Brushy and him.
That's a good stable of keepers, to keep.
You played with some good keepers, but you're picking Gary Rogers because of his longevity and the success he had, even with Dundalk there playing.
Yeah, I know he was top notch. He was very good. For me, good lad in general as well. Not only on the pitch, off the pitch as well, is a great lad. Right back, and now Killybegs man. I'm sure you know him, Seamus Coleman.
I thought you were going to say Denky Dorian there. So,
obviously.
Yeah. What formation? What formation are you going with here first before you go?
We're going with a 4-3-3 today. Today we are playing 4-4-3.
4-4-3.
Yeah, that's my formation. 4-4-3. Hey, I'll tell you a good one now that we're here. Coleman that came in that time in 2015 when he came in himself, and he was fucking brilliant, man. The two of them, the absolute characters. His first team talk was like your man
Mike Bassett.
Mike Bassett. I swear to God, I swear on my life, he came in right lads. Today we are going to play 4-4-2 and see you're playing on the right, you're playing on the left. That's basically what his fucking team talk was, all right? We played 4-4-2 that day. We lost. Next day, he came in 4-4-3, and he came in, in back four, he gave, middle, the Holy Trinity is playing in the 3. Davy Russell, he meant John Russell, not, Davy Russell.
Davy Russell's the John.
Yeah, Davy Russell, he meant John Russell. Davy Russell, he says, Seamus Keneally, and I think it was who was the third one? One of his other favourite lads, anyways. But it used to just come in. The Holy Trinity is playing in the middle, so everyone knew who the Holy Trinity was. His three favourite lads, like. But he was fucking brilliant, man. But anyways, getting back to the team, Seamus Coleman right back. I will go with Liam Burns as centre half. Burnsy, you might know him, is at Dundalk, under 17s manager now. Had a great career with Port Vale. Came to Sligo in 2005 and was a massive player for us in 2005. Was probably the reason we had the most clean sheets. I ended up playing most of the 2005 season as a right back because we had a lot of injuries, and he made it so easy for me. You know, he was my partner kind of as a centre back, just talked me through the game, you know, and made it so simple for me. For me, that's why he would get that the centre half.
I'm not too comfortable on the left side, Raf. Just I wouldn't be as comfortable on the left side just before you go on any further.
Hey,
by Cohen sweat.
I was lucky enough to play with you, big man. I was lucky enough to play with you. Honest to God, I was. And Jesus, by God, what a player you were as well. But I'll have to give the other one to a lad I played with at Bowes, who just made every game look fucking so easy. Brian Shelley.
Oh, what a player!
Like
he was at Carlisle, wasn't he, when he was younger? I remember.
Fucking hell, boys. He was different gravy. Like I don't think I've ever seen him play a bad game. Like I was only there for a season, but he played every single game. I've never seen him play a bad game. He was unbelievable. You know,
Roddy had him at Carlisle.
Yeah, he was unbelievable. Like he was phenomenal. How good he was, and just so consistent. Like never seen him play a fucking bad game. Like so himself and Burnsy is as a centre half pairing, left back, and probably Davo would be a bit pissed off I didn't pick him, as he probably is one of the best left backs. But there was only one lad who I played with, another Yank, Kapono Low. So he was a Hawaiian Yank who was unbelievable. It came to us in the 2005 season at Sligo, and from left back got 10 goals in the first division. 10 goals from left back.
What was his name, Raf?
Kapono Low.
Just there for one season, was he?
One season. But the thing is, he was too good. Like he should have been playing. He was head and shoulders above anyone. Like he was like he was taking the piss. Like he was going in the fucking beer for the weekend. Like the whole weekend, going banging cans off his head and drinking them. Typical Yank. And then he'd come in on a Monday and be the best player by a fucking country mile, like at training. You know, he was just different gravy. Like, but like to score 10 goals from left back.
Yeah, that's incredible.
You know what I mean? For me, that's who I give it to. You have a midfield three then of, look, I'll have to go with Danny Ventry as your holding midfielder. Like I said, underrated. Don't know what he does until you play with him. Like top class. Like the only for him, you know, a lot of Sligo's success, he had a lot to do with it, you know. And when he left a massive void for that, you know, people that does all that dirty work. You know, we didn't have a player that did the dirty work that he did. And it was a massive void to fill, and no one, I don't think anyone has filled it since, really.
Yeah.
You'll have to go then with Richie Ryan. Look, I don't have to say much more about Richie Ryan. Left peg, 2 passes ahead of everybody else. But has a picture before any ball comes to him. He's 2 passes ahead. You know, it's just phenomenal. Different gravy in terms of his vision, his range of passing. Just in general, always has a picture of what's going on. I'll have to go then with the good and the one and only Joseph Ndo as your 10. You know, I think, look, again, I don't think needs any introduction. What he does, just general as a fella, as a person, and then as a player, what he gives, you know, he's a leader, genuine leader. I'd have to go on the right. I'd have to go with my old mate Baco. You know, I can't play my heading. I can't play. You know, Baco on the right. You know, just unbelievable player, technically good, pace to burn. You know, just, you know, can play in any position a bit. You know, so versatile. Played right back, left back, and always just looked comfortable there. You know, through the middle, I would have to go with Danny North. Danny North through the middle. The best finisher probably I've played with.
Yeah.
You know, for me, unbelievable finisher. You know, just a half chance. If he got a chance, there was only one place it was going. You know, it was going in the net. I never seen anyone with a ratio like him in terms of chances and finishing. He just, if he got a half chance, there was only one place it was going, it was in the net.
Just prolific.
So Norty down through the middle, and then on the left I have Mark Quigley. Again, no real introduction, you know. Look, he used to love cutting inside onto the right Duke, and for me, one of the best players I think I played with as a player. Just the stuff he used to do, even in training, you know, he'd be chipping keepers from the halfway line in training, and just, you know, taking the piss, like
outrageous stuff, like.
Yeah, just crazy stuff. Not making 3 or 4 lads in a row.
A couple of seasons there, he was just unplayable there at times. Like,
unbelievable. And like, I was lucky. I played with him at Bowes as well. He was at Bowes when I was at Bowes, and I kind of got to know him there. But when he came to Sligo, then, you know, himself and Jay, when they came to Sligo, obviously they would have rang me before, you know, signing, asking about the place and whatever else. And, you know, they were two fucking great players that came, you know, and a big influence. But Quiggs, you know, in terms of ability and everything else, probably one of the best players, you know, I've played with, up there with Keith Fahey.
That's some team. That is some team. If you had to pick one as the best player you played with, who would you be? Who would you be taking with you?
Jeez, the best player.
The one player that you think.
I'll pick him because he's a great lad. He's went on to do so much, and, you know, never in doubt of what he could do. But, you know, he's probably even surprised himself a little bit. Maybe he hasn't. But Seamus Coleman, for me, look, you don't have to be the most technically gifted player in the world to play at the top level. You know, I think if you have a bit about you in terms of guts, you know, a bit of heart, and apply yourself right, the fucking, you know, the sky is the limit, really, you know, and he's testament to that.
And who's the manager of this team? Ollie Horgan, is it?
Ollie is the manager. Absolutely, Ollie for the manager. Do you know what? Look, fucking, again, another manager I think that doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. He works so fucking hard himself, and Higgs. They work so hard, and, you know, probably a manager that puts in so much. You know, you don't go onto the pitch not knowing what you're doing. You know what your job is. You know what they're about. You know how, you know their team. You know what they're going to play. You know how they're going to play. But, you know, you also know how you are going to play as well. You know, so like I said, doesn't get the credit he deserves. But definitely one of the best managers I played under, without a doubt.
Was he one of the reasons you came to Finn Harps? Was it him?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Ollie, for me, like, I would have talked to Ollie maybe 3-4 seasons previous to what before I came, you know. But he you know, he's the kind of manager, a bit like Cookie, that you'd run through a brick wall for, you know. You'll give blood, sweat and tears. You don't mind going that extra bit, you know, that extra yard for him. You will do it for the cause, like for him, you know. Obviously you're going to do it for yourself, but it always helps when you have a manager that believes in you and you like, you know, it always helps.
Yeah, I suppose just because we haven't really spoke much about Harps, like, I suppose, you know, most of your career lay, I suppose, with your time with Sligo and that there. just to briefly go over it. So you get the phone call. How many phone calls, and was there reservations about coming up there initially?
Well, look, I'll go back to the first time I kind of met him, which was, Jesus, I think it was about 2016, maybe 2016, possibly would have been the first time I met him. Obviously he goes through my hometown Tubber quite a lot, because obviously he travels back to Galway to his family and back up, so he'd be relatively passing here a good bit. So yeah, I met him, and straight away once I met him, to be honest with you, I got the vibe off him. This guy he's not a bullshitter, he's not fucking promising you that you're going to be this or we're going to be that. He paints the picture exactly how it is. There's no fucking bullshit. And me personally, I like that with a manager. I like someone that's straight down the line. They're not fucking trying to bullshit or pull the wool over your eyes. You know what you're going to get. You know that if you're not at the races, he's going to fuck you out of it, but you'll take that with it. You don't mind that. But for me, I would have been in contact then. After that, I would have met him a few times, just in general chat at some things, up at the FAI launches and the league launches and other stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And would have kind of met him, then the following season, and it came to obviously the time where I knew I was, my time had ended at Sligo. I wasn't going to still be there, and I was lucky. I wasn't any young spring chicken. I was lucky to have had a manager there that still wanted and believed that I could bring something to a squad that was competing in the Premier League, in the Premier Division. So, for me, even he was the manager that had a bit of belief in me before. When I was kind of still playing at Sligo and had another contract and everything else, I said, I'm going to give this guy everything I have. It mightn't be what I had 10 years ago, but by God, it'll be as much as I'll give anyone else. And I came up to Harps, with not with any opinion or nothing. I came up knowing that he said, look, we're going to be trying to fight relegation. There's no fucking, I'm not going to try and tell you we're going to be going for Europe. Even though I had a conversation with him saying, Ollie, I think we can push on for Europe. And he's looking at me saying, we'll just stay up, boy. We'll just stay up. And I'm there, I think maybe we can compete for Europe, Ollie. What do you reckon? At least we can try. And he's there, oh, Jesus, boy. I like your optimism, boy, but we're just going to stay up, boy.
Raf, did he try and persuade you to sign on for this year? Or did you just feel that like this was enough now last year? When did you feel that? Did you go into last season sort of knowing this was your last year, or did you make that decision halfway through the season, or how did you come to that?
I kind of knew coming near the end of the season that was kind of, that was kind of going to be it. Even though I would have met Ollie came to the house and I would have chatted to Ollie, and he would have said, geez, boy, I think you still have something to offer, and I was kind of saying, well, I don't know, do I, Ollie? I think you have a fucking great bunch of lads there now, obviously, keeping them is key or whatever. I think my time as a player, I've had a fucking great run of it. I think I can leave now and hold my head high and I always said that I'd leave kind of on my terms, that it'd be my decision. I think that was for me where I wanted to leave, where I wasn't been saying, geez, he's past it now, he has nothing to offer. How do we move him on, or whatever you want to say, you know what I mean? Ollie felt that maybe I could contribute something. I even had a conversation with would I sign till July, and I just said no. I just said, look, I don't think that I can offer anything. I had a minimal part to play last year. I think I only started maybe 4 or 5 games. I came on in most of the games. At some time, but he just felt that the kind of aspect that I brought maybe even off the pitch and how I conducted myself, that might help lads going forward. And I respected that, you know, I totally respected that, but I felt like I wanted to end things kind of on my terms, and it was my decision personally to step away, you know. I know, I loved the 2 years. Honest to God, I really, really enjoyed the 2 years. You know, I was up there. You know, like obviously the year with yourself, Keith, up there, and you know, it's a great club. You know, there's some great people around it. You know, and like I said, no more than Ollie, probably doesn't get the credit, you know, it deserves. You know, you know. Obviously, the new stadium thing now, I think if that gets up and running, you know, for me the potential that Harps is endless. You know, you've the young lads who
you weren't going to hang on, were you, Raf, for the new stadium, were you?
Hey, Raf, that new stadium was being talked about when you made your debut for Sligo Rovers.
Hey, in
1973.
I'll be the same age as Tommy Harkin.
Tommy was promised a new stadium too. He used to play. I just want to finish off just one last question, Raf. I suppose you know, we've spoke about your career. It's been absolutely brilliant, and I'm actually fed up talking about kissing your ass and that, telling you how much you won that. So, but just I suppose after football, I know you have your own kind of soccer school at the minute, and you're working away with that there. Talk us a wee bit about that there first.
Yeah, I've got obviously the academy kind of set up. I've set that up now. It's been touching 2 years now this year. So, you know, obviously COVID now, it's a bit more difficult to kind of get things running. But, you know, there was some one-on-ones. But what I've done obviously during COVID is touch base weekly with the clients. Obviously, I would have gathered. And we go through 2 Zoom sessions a week. You know, it's just to get the ball at their feet and just general, you know, being active and everything. Because there's no football at all now. You know, obviously anything you do is just in the garden. So, you know, you're trying to keep these some way active and you know, just been used to the ball at their feet. So it's a bit more easier when they do come back at it. But yeah, so doing that, you know, obviously. Little bit of coaching, obviously, with my local club here, you know, my grassroots club, the senior football. So I'm back playing junior football actually with them. Real Tubber, what a name!
Yeah, the Tubber tornado comes home.
So yeah, in there, and so doing a little bit of taking a couple of the sessions with them, and you know, nothing serious about it, a bit of banter with the boys that I would have grown up with, and you know, stuff like that. Then I'm doing the schools as well. So obviously it was Wellbeing Week this week, so I have a couple of videos to some of the schools around the county, you know, for Wellbeing Week, and you know, little bits and pieces like that, you know. So I'm trying to keep tipping away, even though COVID is restricting a lot of the movement, but kind of trying to keep things ticking over, and hopefully when we do go back, you know, people will be mad for football, and it'll hit the ground running again, please God.